If Democrats want to take the Speaker's gavel back this fall, the road to victory may very well run straight through Pennsylvania. And after last night's primaries, we have a much clearer picture of who is going to be leading that fight. In one key battleground district, Democratic voters chose Bob Brooks, a retired firefighter and snowplow driver with endorsements from the likes of Governor Josh Shapiro, former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and Senator Bernie Sanders. But in Philly, one of the safest, bluest districts in America, Democratic voters went in a different direction, handing a victory to State Representative Chris Rabb, a progressive backed by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Democratic socialist groups. Joining us now is MS Now's Akayla Gardner in Washington, D.C., and Charlie Sykes, author of the Substack newsletter To the Contrary. Great to have both of you guys. So, Charlie, I'll start with you to set the stage for us. Why Pennsylvania is such a key state for Democrats if they want to have any hope of taking the House in November.
Well, the math is very clear. There's no path to the White House for Democrats without winning Pennsylvania. They obviously need to win states like Pennsylvania. They need to win in Michigan. They need to win in Wisconsin. And these are all states that Donald Trump won. So I think that the result last night, Bob Brooks winning that primary, is an interesting tell because unlike the other seat that you referenced, that is a swing district. That is one of the majority-making districts. And that result tells me that the Democrats have become very serious about going after the working class vote. There's been tremendous erosion for Democrats among white working class voters, and clearly they're taking that seriously. And he's the kind of candidate that I think is well positioned. The big question is, there's two different theories. One is that you need to move to the center to get those voters who might have been Trump curious. The other is let's double down on the more radical candidates. But the reality is that the majority will be determined by those swing districts, and that's what makes the Bob Brooks race quite interesting.
So where do you fall in that debate, Charlie? I'm curious. Are we looking at a Democratic Party that is ideologically divided? Or do you think that the fact that Democrats are able to run these two different candidates successfully in two very different types of districts, is that just what big tent politics is supposed to look like?
Well, I hope it's what Big Tent politics looks like, because that's what it's going to take to win the midterms and, even more importantly, win the 2028 election. In terms of the debate, I think that if you look at the electoral map, you look at the Electoral College, you look at the seats that will be in play, I would suggest that it is those candidates who move toward the center, who are able to win over voters who may have drifted away from the Democratic Party in the past. Now, I understand that there's also a progressive base that is very, very fired up in many of these safe districts. So I think right now Democrats are going to need all of those votes, most of those votes, and right now they seem to be getting them.
Akayla, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro won the Democratic nomination for a second term. He also, of course, as I mentioned, was behind the candidate in this battleground district. And so I'm curious if this victory, of course, it's not really his victory that we're talking about here from last night, but does it signal something to you about his aspirations, his energy for the years and the cycles to come?
Well, all of the candidates that he endorsed won their primaries overnight, so that is certainly a sign of his influence. But we tried to answer this question of whether Josh Shapiro wins re-election. Is that a launching pad for him to 2028? And what we found is it would be a very compelling argument. If he wins, and he certainly seems as though he will handedly win in November, he would have won Pennsylvania, which is, of course, the state with the most electoral college votes, 4 times. So it becomes an issue where Democrats can't really ignore him as a potential 2028 candidate. But whenever he has been asked about his future aspirations, here's what he says he's focused on this year. Take a listen.
We have an historic opportunity, my fellow Pennsylvanians, to flip the U.S. House of Representatives. And I know we are ready to do our part in Pennsylvania. And in our state capital, we have the opportunity to keep moving our Commonwealth forward, protecting our state House majority and delivering a Democratic majority in the state Senate for the first time since 1992. We can do this. This election is a clear choice between their chaos, their cruelty, and their corruption, and our compassion.
Now, in a recent national poll, Josh Shapiro actually outperformed other 2028 presidential candidates when it comes to favorability amongst all voters. Meanwhile, with Democratic voters, he does show some struggling signs there, so he would have some trouble in a primary.